Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry Milana, and I'm delighted to co-MC the program this afternoon with the wonderful Starla Lewis. We are both former inductees, and we were both honored to be invited to co-MC today. You know, since 2002, women have been honored annually for their life efforts at this annual induction ceremony. And their stories are memorialized in a permanent exhibit, the Women's Hall of Fame, at the Women's Museum of California, located here in San Diego, and in the virtual exhibit online. And today, we're delighted to induct 6 extraordinary women into the Hall of Fame. And we want to thank our partner, Moxie Theater, for helping us bring our program online virtually this year. They helped us last year as well, and we very much thank Moxie Theater. We also want to thank our Women's Hall of Fame co-hosts, and there's 4 of them. The Women's Museum of California, the San Diego County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, UC San Diego's Women's Center, and San Diego State University's Department of Women Studies. Now, for this afternoon's program, we'll have a couple of key presentations, and then we will be meeting 3 of our honorees. We'll have a special interlude, and we will then move on to our next 3 honorees, and we will conclude with the actual induction. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we have a special guest with us this afternoon, San Diego City Council President, Dr. Jennifer Campbell. Please join me in a warm welcome for City Council President, Dr. Jennifer Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of my City Council colleagues, it is my honor to proclaim the month of March as Women's History Month and recognize the Women's Museum of California for the contributions and impact it has made throughout our city. During the month of March, Women's History Month is celebrated to recognize the achievements women have made in all areas of our society, from arts and sciences to medicine and public service. In the 1980s, Women's History Month was officially enacted by the President and the Congress. Headquartered here in San Diego, the Women's Museum of California aims to educate people about women's experiences and contributions through an active calendar of originally curated exhibits, educational programs, and community events. Today, the Women's Museum of California is inducting 6 wonderful San Diego women into the Hall of Fame. And I would like to thank and honor Rosalie Schwartz, Margaret Iwanaga Penrose, Susan Jester, Genevieve Jones-Wright, Honorable Rhonda Trapp, and Nikki de Saint-Phal, who have significantly contributed to the quality of life in their neighborhoods and have made outstanding volunteer contributions in San Diego County. With that, I would like to read the last part of the proclamation and then show it to you. Whereas the city of San Diego pays tribute to the many remarkable women who have led the way in establishing a strong and more democratic county. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council that this council, for and on behalf of the people of San Diego, hereby declare and proclaim the month of March 2021 as Women's History Month in the city of San Diego. Let us all continue to acknowledge and value the skills and abilities of women of every race, class, and ethnic background. It is an honor for me to be here today. Congratulations to the inductees, and thank you.
Thank you, City Council President Jen Campbell. Thank you for presenting this proclamation to honor the current 6 and the past 111 inductees into the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame. I'm Ann Hoiberg, President of the Board of Directors of the Women's Museum of California. And I'm also a member of the Hall of Fame Planning Committee. I did want to mention that this annual Hall of Fame was created by Dr. Sue Gonda and Olivia Puentes Reynolds. This year's planning committee includes Commission Chair Leah Goodwin and Commissioner Rebecca Royce, Professor Angela Coker, Executive Director of the Museum, Felicia Shaw, and Director of Marketing, Melissa Jones. Other committee members are from Moxie's Theater, Nicole Reese and Jen Thorne, as well as filmmaker Katie Stanley and her assistants, Barbara Stanley and Dwayne McGregor. All of us representing the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame encourage you to nominate women from our counties, past or present, women who have inspired you and have impacted our community. Nominations for next year's Hall of Fame are accepted now through the end of the year on the museum's website under Women's Hall of Fame. On behalf of the Planning Committee, I thank you all for joining us for this special milestone year. To ensure the future of the Hall of Fame for another 20 or more years, you are invited to make a contribution by texting WHOF20, WOLF20, at 833-755-6550, which is also listed in the concluding credits. To join us in our 20-year celebration with a film showcasing the 117 inductees into the Hall of Fame, we have a special message from the Honorable Sarah Jacobs, who represents our 53rd Congressional District. Welcome, Congresswoman Jacobs.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. Congratulations to all the inductees in this year's class. It's great to see 6 more incredible women being inducted into the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame has done a fantastic job lifting up women in our community, telling their stories, and helping so many other women see their own strength. Growing up, I was blessed to be able to see women serving as leaders here in California, from our history-making female senators, Senator Boxer and Senator Feinstein, to our own member of Congress and my friend and mentor, former Congresswoman Susan Davis. Their example helped give me the confidence to know that women could lead and get things done. And thanks to the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame, young women and girls can learn more about the activists, bridge builders, spirits, and trailblazers right here in San Diego. So congratulations again to the inductees.
All righty then. All right, we're back for the women that we are here to honor. And the first honoree is for the trailblazer. And a trailblazer is someone who is innovative, someone who opens the way. And Rhonda Trapp is honestly one of those women. So Judge Rhonda Trapp. In 2003, I'm not there. Why aren't I there? In 2003, after practicing law for over 20 years, Judge Rhonda Trapp was appointed by Governor Gray David to the San Diego County Court of Supervisor Court. Judge Rhonda has been active in all aspects of her community. She is a past president of the Earl B. Gillum Bar Association and past regional director of the California Women's Lawyers. She served as a member of the Board of Directors of California Association for Black Lawyers and Black Lawyers Club. She is truly an advocate for the Black community in San Diego, but she represents all of San Diego community. Judge Rhonda Trapp.
I still have to pinch myself sometimes with the realization that a little Black girl who started in Southeast San Diego would end up on the San Diego Superior Court. It's an honor, it's a privilege to serve the people of San Diego County in this capacity. The notion that it takes a village is, at least was true in my case. It was family and then teachers and other people in the community that inspired me. My mother, of course, very hardworking woman, you know, holding down a family, and she worked outside the home, taking care of other people's children at first. Growing up in the turbulent 60s, we had walkouts in high school. I was at Lincoln High. I was supposed to be at a school in National City, but I was drawn back to the community where I felt comfortable and where I thought I could thrive. So we had walkouts for, we wanted a better education. We wanted teachers that looked like us. And those early civil rights experience that I had helped me to focus on the fact that the people who were really doing the hard work, you know, the Martin Luther Kings, people who made the ultimate sacrifice for equality, for racial equality. At that point, I felt like I needed to do something. As a lawyer, I could really help people in a significant and impactful way. There were challenges for not just being a woman, but being an African-American woman. And, you know, from being in the military, which I enjoyed, but that was, you know, a male-dominated service in the Navy, to going on to become a lawyer and then a judge in the legal profession, which is still primarily a male-dominated environment. You have to pick your battles. I learned that early on, or else you'll just wear yourself out. When I think about myself as a trailblazer, and on our court, I'm the first African American to preside over civil cases, and then to become the supervising judge of the civil department. I think about Judge Elizabeth A. Riggs and everything that she went through to make things a little bit better for me. And I also think about my responsibility to make things a little bit better for the women coming behind me. I encourage all young women to follow your dreams, follow your passions, and anybody that tells you no, or you can't, or you shouldn't, just use that as fuel to propel and to excel, because you can and you will, as long as you stick to what you believe and you follow your passions. Things are a lot better than they used to be for women and people of color, but we've got a long way to go. So we need young women to continue to push, to continue to agitate, and continue to make people uncomfortable until we reach a point where we don't need trailblazers. We don't have to acknowledge that, because it'll just be commonplace, just like it is for our male counterparts. When you know better, you can do better. What I would like to be remembered for is someone who did her best, who tried her best, and someone who always worked to be supportive of other women and people of color, and someone who extended grace. You walk down a trail blazoned by a woman who, traveling before you, found only a forest inviting no entrance. Women who looked to the sky and used God's stars to guide them through the maze of injustices that confronted them. Women who had to be tough only to be labeled as brash, persistent only to be labeled as aggressive, determined only to be labeled as combative, ambitious only to be labeled as antagonistic. Women who lost many battles, but who hold you up as proof that they have won the war. Women who stand before you to protect you, beside you to embrace you, and behind you to push you to be the best you can be. We celebrate you, lady lawyer, lady leader, lady of life. This is your time to shine. Shine so that young women coming to the trail will see the direction to travel. Shine so that women who have wandered off the trail can see where to return. Shine so that those women who blazed the trail will know the light still burns. We celebrate you, lady lawyer, lady leader, lady of life. That poem was written by Yvette L. Simmons, a past president of the National Bar Association. And I shared it with you because it expresses my sentiments, and it reminds me of the gratitude that I have for the women who blazed the trail for me, excuse me. And that includes former Hall of Famers, the late Honorable Elizabeth A. Riggs, and my friend, Justice Judith McConnell. It also reminds me of the gratitude and the responsibility that I have for the women coming behind me, and to be grateful for the women that nominated me for this award. Arlene Yang of the Myers-Nave firm, and my friend, Judge Terry Roberts. Thank you to the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame for deeming me worthy of this high honor. And I just want to take a moment to thank, well, first of all, congratulate the awesome women in this class of inductees. I am so honored to be in your presence, and to thank all of my friends and colleagues and family that are here today to support me and the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame, including my colleagues on the San Diego Superior Court. I see many of you are logged on, members of the legal community, the National Bar Association, Judicial Council Division. My colleagues from all over the country have logged in. Thank you. My sisters and sorority sisters in Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Christian Fellowship Church, my church family, I thank you. And I am grateful to God for the life that He has given me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for those inspiring words, Judge Trapp. And as you were speaking, I couldn't help but think of my great aunt Kate, who said, "We come from a people who learned how to make a way out of no way." Okay. Historian, Dr. Rosalie Swartz.
The big thing that influenced my early childhood was, of course, World War II, which broke out when I was 5 years old. And that was 1941, as you all know, and didn't end until 1945. So when I was growing up in those early years, it was a time when women, the contribution of women was valued. Everybody was working for the war effort. It was a frightening time because there were threats to our safety and people were dying and we knew it. But we were all sacrificing for the war effort. And children were valued in terms of what they did for the war effort. We had our victory garden with our neighbors, and we grew lettuce and we grew tomatoes and we harvested what we grew and we ate them, and you know, we sacrificed. There was rationing. We didn't have, we had points to buy meat. We didn't have sugar. Coffee was rationed. Gasoline was rationed. So our mobility was limited, and we knew that we were doing without things, but we knew that there was something more important than we were. There was a war effort, and we worked toward finishing the war so people could come home and live a peaceful life again. I worked in the History Center in Balboa Park and the special collections at San Diego State University, where they have the YWCA papers, and worked in the California room at the downtown library. They have the index of newspapers and brought together materials for that, and I have been doing that for various exhibits that the Women's Museum has put on in the last 10 years and enjoyed it tremendously, and I hope that people remember what was in the exhibits, as well as they wouldn't know me personally, but it's been a great pleasure to work with them. History really opened the world for me and gave me an opportunity to research and write and to create works of history that others can use. I mean, I did research in various parts of the world. I did research in archives and libraries in Mexico and Cuba, in Havana. I used the National Library and the National Archives. I did work in Spain. As with any historians, I'd like to be remembered for the books that I wrote. I'd like for some students that I had to remember me, and perhaps I helped to influence them. I would like to be remembered for the work that I did at the Women's Museum. I started 10 years ago working, using what I knew about writing history to do research and writing for the exhibits. Young women of today have more to teach me than I have a message for them. I know that because I have 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters, and they all know this world a lot better than I do. But if I were to extend a message from my experience, I would tell young women to challenge the status quo, to do what they know needs to be done, and to bring into the conversation something from my cultural background. In the Jewish tradition, we are advised to make the world a better place, what we call tikkun olam, make the world a better place.
Thank you so much, Rosalie, for being a historian, for being a herstory, and for being an our story. Thank you for guiding us to seek the truth. The truth brings us together. So thank you and congratulations. You know, Dr. Swartz said most of what I was here to say, but what I do want to say is the fact that history, we're living, and lived history is alive. And I'm glad that you not only were a witness, but you were a documenter of this history that we're living, because each generation is challenged to learn from the generations that come before. And without our historians, we don't get to have that information. I honor you for the books that you have written and that you so graciously shared with us. And I honor you for the cross-cultural work that you've done, because sometimes in history, we only get one perspective. And so I really want to honor you for bringing in the Latin perspective and all the work that you have done. And also, we're both graduates of San Diego State University, so you have to be at least good. So thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am honored really to join the women who are already in the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame. It is a great honor, and I want to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for bringing me in. I want to say that in terms of my work, living in San Diego, it opened my eyes to the impact that tourism has on our history. And I used those insights to investigate and write about the tourist business in Cuba and the impact it had on Cuba's politics and culture. And that was the book, Pleasure Island, Tourism and Temptation in Cuba. And then I expanded those insights and applied them to all of the Americas and looked at the beginnings of a larger tourist industry in the Americas in flying down to Rio. Then after that, I came across an amazing woman, and I looked at the way this woman has shaped our history. Mabel Walker Willebrand was a young woman teaching history on the east side of Los Angeles and going to law school at the same time at the University of Southern California. She was one of the first graduates of the USC Law School and opened a practice in Los Angeles. And in 1921, President Warren Harding appointed her Assistant Attorney General in charge of imposing the Volstead Act on the United States. Yes, that's right. She was going to dry the country out. It was prohibition. And she moved to Washington and spent the next several years prosecuting bootleggers and smugglers. And she was in charge of the prohibition agents, the Eliot Nesses of the time. And she worked hard and wasn't a teetotaler herself, but she shaped history and earned herself the cover of Time magazine in 1929. And for the last 10 years, I have been looking at many other women who have shaped history in work that I have done for the Women's Museum. And as I said in the video, I am very happy, very proud to have joined the amazing teams that put together the exhibits. They do the curating, they do the production, they do the mounting of the exhibits on the walls of the gallery at the Women's Museum. And if any of my words that were on the walls with those exhibits encourage the visitors to the museum to look at other women, to investigate what women do, and look at the way women shape their own lives and shape history, that will be a great satisfaction to me. And I hope after they've looked at the exhibits, they will go on to follow their dreams. So I am very happy to be part of the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. And we are very happy to have you part of the Women Hall of Fame. I have the honor to introduce to you also Genevieve Jones-Wright. And I am thrilled to introduce her because she is truly an activist, and she is being honored as the activist that she is. And an activist is someone who fights for us, who helps to transform our lives and make them better. So Genevieve Jones-Wright proudly served San Diego County as a public defender from 2006 to 2019. She is the director of the Community Advocates for Justice and Moral Governance. And she is also part of MOGO, which is to achieve racial justice and hold governments accountable. And that's the only way we get racial justice, right? She also is part of Motivation in Action. She helped found it and has been president of the Earl B. Gilliam Bar Association. And she's connected to one of my favorite organizations, David's Harps, which as a volunteer attorney, she helps California Innocence Project dismantle our criminal justice system and make it more just. It is an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to introduce this sister activist, Genevieve Jones-Wright.
Well, I grew up in Southeast San Diego with my siblings and my mother, who raised us as a single parent. I was inspired by Justice Thurgood Marshall when I was a 4th grader at Knox Elementary School. I learned about him, and his life impacted me so much that I based my decision on becoming a lawyer and attending law school because of his journey. And so I attended Howard Law because when I was 8 or 9, I heard that Justice Marshall was trained there, and at that moment I knew that I would become a lawyer and go to school where he went. I was very young, and I would see something that I knew was wrong, and I would just stand up for the people that I believed was being harmed or wronged. And so I'm honored to be celebrated as an activist and being inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame as an activist. You can't spell activism or activist without act, and I'm a doer. Frederick Douglass talks about praying with legs, and I'm a very faith-driven person, but I also believe that in addition to prayer, we have to act. I always get emotional when I talk about my mother, even though I try not to. But I think about the sacrifices that she made for me and my siblings. I didn't know any Black attorneys. I didn't know any women attorneys. And so the very first woman attorney that I saw was Claire Huxtable, a fictional character. And my mother bought me suits so that I could look like Claire Huxtable. And she really just nourished my dream of being an attorney. Everything to my mother, and I wanted every degree that I earned to be in her name. And so I took on my maternal grandparents' last name, which is how and why I'm hyphenated to this day. I also remember being in the courtroom and a judge looking to my male intern as if he was the attorney in the case, and me having to say, I'm the attorney. I remember at junior high, we were getting ready for Model UN, and I was talking about having a national office, and the guy next to me said, well, when I'm president of the United States, you're going to be my Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And it's just those types of situations that I think a lot of women face because we're in a male-dominated society, and so they will either defer to the male in the room or put you in a box. I actually started a nonprofit about a year ago with another Black woman attorney. Our organization's name is Community Advocates for Just and Moral Governance, or MOGO, and our work is centered around achieving racial and social justice. And so that's obviously a gargantuan feat, but every day I'm working as an advocate with the community who has been harmed, with disenfranchised populations, marginalized groups, to make sure that their voices are heard. And we do that on a lot of different levels. We have relationships with elected and public officials. We also get on the other side of advocacy and initiate lawsuits in order to make our society better, and that's through something called impact litigation. I continue to write my story every day, and so what I would tell young women is to be a perpetual autobiographer and don't let your mistakes define you. Mistakes are actually victories when you turn them into lessons learned. And so make your mistakes, embrace your flaws, but when you fall or you fail, just get back up and start to write that next chapter of your life. I want to be remembered for being on the right side of history. I want to be remembered for taking on fights and having stances even when they were not popular, but that they were right. I want to be remembered for being very conviction driven and led by integrity, and a person who is people-centered, a person who brings humanity to everything that she does. I believe that every moment that we have on this earth and every breath in our body is a testament that we're not done with our work. So there's something else that I have to do. There's something else that I will accomplish. And so stay tuned.
Welcome back. We're so honored to have you with us.
Thank you so much. To say that I am honored and humbled is an extreme understatement. It is truly an honor to be inducted into the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame. And today is a very special day, not just because of my induction, but because it is the birthday of one of my best friends, Mia, who I honor with the name of my professional motivational speaking firm, Motivation in Action, where I talk about never relinquishing your pen, writing your own story, and empowering everyone, but especially women and young girls, to do the same. I know from my life that people will tell you that you're too young to do something, that you have to get permission, that you somehow haven't paid your dues yet, or because you grew up in a single parent home or in a low income household or in a certain zip code, that you will never make it. And so my life is a testament. And it is my deep privilege to serve my community and work with the community to ensure that every single part of our community is included, especially in government, but decision-making in all systems. So while it is an honor to be inducted today, recognition has never been my goal. My goal has always been 4 things. That is to honor God, to build on my grandmother's legacy, to make my mother proud, and to use the law as a tool for our most vulnerable groups and to advance society as a whole. I live by the mantra that life is a gift from God, and how we live is our gift to God. My pursuit for true justice comes from my calling to be a social engineer, something that is instilled in every Howard-trained attorney. We live in a society where we are told not to speak too loudly, especially if you are a woman, particularly a Black woman, and especially if you are trying to dismantle oppressive systems. Martin Luther King cautioned that true peace is not merely the presence or the absence of tension, but it is the presence of justice. And so I pursue justice in all that I do. And this is why I push our region to reimagine our world, to reimagine how we treat people and how we perceive people, how we imagine how our government operates in all of our systems, which include our education, healthcare, political, and of course, criminal justice systems. And the work of achieving racial and social justice is the work of building a more inclusive, equitable, and just society, a more humane society. So I ask, how do we get impacted people at the decision-making table? How do we achieve transformative justice? With this induction, I recognize the community that has supported me throughout my life. My auntie Deborah, who took off work to support me and cheer me on at my speech and debate competitions in high school. My auntie Mimi, who gave me the money so that I was able to study abroad in Mexico City and have a deeper perspective about inequities in our world. My sisters, Lakasha and Deidre, Sakina, my older sisters, they are my first role models. And so I honor them today as I'm inducted. My church family, thank you for being with me and praying with me. Thank you for being here today. My sisters who pray for me, because Lord knows it is hard to try to eradicate racism and dismantle oppressive systems. And so I want to thank Marisa Talbert, Dr. Kira Green, Christy Hill, Cherie Gilmore Cleveland, Eunice Stepp, Council Member Montgomery Stepp, and Stacy Dent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lynn Jerry. And I accept this honor, of course, in honor of my grandmother who passed away while I was earning my master in laws. She never got to see me become the Jonetta Cochran that she told me I would be. This is for you, Grandma. And of course, everything that I am is because of my mother, who never missed a promotion ceremony, never missed a graduation, never missed a science fair or a spelling bee, and who was always in my corner. Thank you, Mom, because you are why I am who I am. And as a person who prayerfully has more days ahead of me than behind me, I say to all of my nieces and my nephews that you are never too young to make a difference, and never let anyone tell you that you are. Thank you all so much. I want to thank the person or persons who nominated me, and I want to thank the selection committee. And before I get in trouble, I want to thank my husband, Oliver Bailey, for being a true feminist in every way, for pushing me, for supporting me, and for not being afraid to have a strong woman by his side. Thank you all so very much.
Now I get the honor to introduce our next three honorees. Our empowerer this year is Susan Jester. Susan is an activist and a community leader, and she started her professional career in politics and community activism 43 years ago, back in 1978. And she was serving with several nonprofit charities while working full-time in banking. And in 1983, Susan came out as an openly gay woman and quickly dove into current LGBT issues, becoming a well-known lesbian activist and speaking frequently with other LGBT leaders at press conferences and debates. And in the early 1980s, when the AIDS epidemic struck the gay men's community, Susan used her tremendous organizing skills, and she used her political experience to raise public awareness, calm public fears, and raise critically needed money. And she mobilized the LGBT community and numerous straight allies to found, she is the founder of the first AIDS walk in San Diego back in 1985. Now, since that time, she has done so many things to assist our community, including leading the statewide California campaign against Prop 102 back in 1988, which was a discriminatory AIDS California ballot initiative. But again, she's done so much, and she's inspired others and empowered others. So let's take a look at this short video to learn more about Susan Jester.
I was born in San Bernardino. I'm a third-generation native Californian, and I grew up my first few years in Riverside, and then we moved to Palm Springs, which is where I actually grew up and went to school. I had a unique younger part of my life. I ran off and got married when I was 16 and had a child when I was 16 and became a widow when I was 17. So I was a single mom for the next 18 years or so. So again, I think I was mostly in survival mode instead of the normal course that a young woman would take even in my generation, which there weren't a lot of options back in the day. You went to college, you got married, and careers, things wasn't on the horizon. Many women in my generation, I think, and some before, inspired me as a youngster, particularly my coaches, my PE coach, my teachers in junior high and high school, and, you know, in history, Catherine the Great, Rosa Parks, women like that that were firsts or innovative or visionaries inspired me. I started after I came out as a gay person in 1983. And at the time, I saw what I felt was a lot of injustice and wrong images and wrongdoing against the LGBTQ community. It so happened that at the time I came out, I was working in politics as what they call an operative. I worked for various campaigns and various candidates and issues. So, and I was a Republican. So and this is 1980s in San Diego, which looked entirely different than it completely has flipped. A couple of things that happened in the gay community, and I was very much in the closet, that incensed me. And some of the folks that knew me in our community said, Susan, you have the contacts and you have the people that can make these things change, but you need to, you know, let them know you're part of our community. So that was really what prompted me to come out. And then once I was out, I just went to work on various issues. At the time, it was just simple gay rights, you know. Homosexuality was illegal in California until 1975. So it wasn't too long after those laws had changed that there was still so much prejudice and arresting people for things that, you know, were totally ridiculous. Founding the AIDS Walk is one of my favorite things because it would be a toss-up between that and Stonewall 25, but with the AIDS Walk, that's something that's been ongoing. It's raised millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's the largest fundraising mechanism for HIV in San Diego County. And it did change lives. It changed public perception about HIV, which was my motive. You couldn't even say the word AIDS. We could not call it AIDS Walk. It was called San Diego Walks for Life the first 3 years because people would not write a check with the word AIDS on it, or they wouldn't put a poster in their business that said anything about AIDS. I would say that's the thing I'm most proud of. I would say follow your dream, follow your passion, whatever it is that you feel you're called to do in life. I followed someone else's passion and dream and was not a happy person until I was in my mid-40s, where I then started to follow the things that I wanted to pursue, But that's my message to young people is whatever your passion is, or whoever you are, whatever you want to be, go for it, because you can do it in this country. It takes a lot of hard work, and sometimes you have to buck up against culture and parents and society, but whatever it is that's your passion, if you don't do that, you won't be happy in life. You might make a lot of money, but you won't be happy.
Susan, your work has been so inspirational, and yes, you have changed hearts, you have changed minds, and you have inspired others to follow in your footsteps and be fully an empowerer. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm extremely honored to be here today and so proud to receive this award along with the other dedicated and talented inductees to the Women's Hall of Fame. I want to thank the nominating committee and a shout out to the memory of Karen Vignot, who was my nominator and whose advocacy for Native Americans and women's rights and equality was an inspiration to me. The events of this past year awakened many memories of another epidemic in America that changed my life and put me on the path that brings me here today. America panicked in the early 80s when a gay cancer swept through my community like a plague. The circumstances were similar to COVID. The medical community was uncertain, the public was fearful, the indifference of the federal and local governments, and a president who refused to speak the word AIDS. One major difference, however, was in general, nobody really cared if a bunch of gay guys and people of color were dying quickly and in droves. America was unsympathetic, and some religious leaders claimed it was God's punishment and well-deserved. There was no voice for the sick and the dying. As a child, I dedicated my life to God. I prayed to be used in service to a greater purpose higher than my own. The AIDS epidemic awakened the warrior in my spirit. And when I founded the San Diego AIDS Walk in 1985, it was just the beginning of many more answers in the form of activism nationally and locally to my life purpose, prayer. Even though my childhood church rejected me, I considered it an honor and my Christian duty to serve others. And it has been in my motive for the last 36 years of LGBTQ civil and human rights activism. I'm profoundly blessed to have had so many awesome opportunities to empower others and raise my voice for those without a voice. Finally, I just want to say I'm not finished yet. Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said, change happens step by step. So while all of us inductees have done great things, the journey and challenges to equality and social justice is not over. Step by step, we must all keep moving forward to see that America keeps its promises and San Diego to all its people. Thank you all so much for this great honor. It's been a privilege to be here with you today, and I thank you all so very much.
Congratulations, Susan. Yes, you're not done yet. We look forward to your next steps. You've done so much, so congratulations again on your Empowerer Award.
Thank you, thank you.
Our next honoree is in the category of Cultural Bridge Builder and is one of my personal sheroes. Our Cultural Bridge Builder awardee is Margaret Iwanaga Penrose. Margaret is the president and CEO of the Union of Pan-Asian Communities, known as UPAC here. It's a 501c3 comprehensive human care organization addressing the critical health, behavioral, social, housing, economic, and community development needs of Many communities, including the Asian, Pacific Islander, Latinx, Middle Eastern, East African, African American, and other ethnic communities in the San Diego region. And Margaret has spent 32 years here in San Diego supporting these communities along with UPAC, and she has a total of 40 years of experience in this area, both here in San Diego, but also in Chicago and in Texas. She has extensive governmental, nonprofit, and corporate community involvement in local, regional, state, and national boards, as well as commissions, committees, and task forces. And indeed, she is an icon here in San Diego, and her continuing work is guided by her personal belief that the quality of the community is reflected in its capacity to assist, to heal, and strengthen its most vulnerable members. So let's watch this short video with Margaret Iwanaga Penrose.
Who is this lady? Who is this person that everybody's bowing to? And as the crowd kind of spreads out, I see that it's Margaret.
Margaret is an incredible person that has contributed so much to our community.
This very strong-willed woman who is very determined, who really has the best balance of both worlds. Margaret has that. Margaret has that in her, that this is not just a job. This is really about giving back to the community. And it's, you know, she not just talks the talk, she walks the walk.
I feel deeply honored for being a cultural bridge builder. My start was growing up surrounded by family members with courage, compassion, resilience, forgiveness, and abiding love and hope. The woman who initially inspired me was my mother, a woman of extraordinary inner and external beauty, with love of traditional arts, of tea ceremony and flower arrangement, staying true to her own convictions and always being there, supporting my life's choices and actions. I never doubted my ability to overcome challenges because I always connected with extraordinary women. We faced challenges together, connecting and supporting each other. Know and love thyself. Build on your strength. Dream and explore new areas of growth. Embrace and bring diversity. Live with kindness, resilience, and hopefulness. Always surround yourself with others you support and who support you. Most recently, significant achievements have included the development of food distribution program for our community. So many of our clients and their families were faced with food insecurity.
She is the voice and the face behind UPAC, and that gentle, graceful touch that she has is what makes UPAC continue to grow.
Margaret, congratulations. You have really left a long legacy of community service here in San Diego, and we honor you today. And I know we have a short clip with Margaret.
It is with much gratitude and appreciation that I accept this induction into the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame. It is an honor to join the many strong women who are members of this prestigious group. I would like to recognize my family, from whom I learned courage to stand by one's convictions, compassion and service to others, determination and commitment to learning, and resilience, forgiveness, and infinite hope in the face of violence. Thank you to the Women's Museum of California for this honor. And remember, always lead with courage, compassion, and above all, love.
Congratulations again, Margaret, on your Cultural Bridge Builder Award. Now, our final honoree is going to receive the Spirit of the Women's Hall of Fame. And it goes to Nikki DeSaint-Fall, and this is a posthumous award. Nikki passed away in 2002, but we honor her because of her spirit that lives on today. Now, Nikki DeSaint-Fall was a French-American sculptor, painter, and filmmaker. And she is widely noted as one of the very few women who were monumental sculptors. And she was also known for her social commitment. She was born in 1930 in France. And in the 1950s, she started painting and became an artist. And she experimented with different types of painting and became known for something called tiers, which are shooting paintings. And it brought her international fame and membership in a group of artists called New Realists. And she formed a close relationship with another artist, a Swiss kinetic sculptor by the name of Jean Tinguely. And they developed a creative collaboration, and they actually got married. And they worked together for many years in constructing many of Nikki's major sculptures around the world. And her sculptures are in places like Stockholm and Jerusalem, in Italy, and in Paris. And during her life, she never stopped exploring, and she worked with different materials, including polyester, bronze, and mosaic. Now, here in San Diego, you've probably seen some of her works. At UC San Diego, she sculpted the sun god. And in Escondido and Kit Carson Park, the beautiful Queen Califia's magical circle. You've probably also seen in Balboa Park, the Poet and the Muse near the Mingay Museum. That's another sculpture of hers. And also at Waterfront Park near the County Administration Building, there's actually 3 sculptures, a baseball player, a seal, and a serpent. And near the California Center of the Arts, there's also a totem. So it might be fun for you who are watching to maybe get outdoors and take a look at these wonderful sculptures of Nikki DeSaint-Fall. Now, again, as I mentioned, she passed away in 2002 in La Jolla, and her award that she is receiving today will be housed at her foundation, the Nikki Charitable Art Foundation. We're going to see a short video about Nikki, and then we have a very special acceptance by Marcello Zitelli, who's coming or beaming into us from Buenos Aires. But first, let's take a look at this short film about the life of Nikki de Saint Paul.
We're busier than we've ever been, largely because of the women's movement and Me Too, and Nikki is, on the leading, her artwork and her place in the world put her right at the leading edge of that movement. She was born in 1930 in France. Her father was a French banker, actually was from a very wealthy banking family in France. He married a U.S. citizen.
I'm not the person who can change society except through showing some kind of vision of these happy, joyous, domineering women. That's all that I can do.
She was a staunch feminist. Well, for instance, somebody told her once that, her artwork was as good as a man's. And she said, no, it's not as good as a man's. It's made by a woman. It's completely different. She was very strong in her belief that, she wanted to be a woman first and an artist second. And that her art was the art of a woman, and she wanted to be one of the first great women artists. If you look at her art, it's all curves. There aren't any right angles and sharp angles in her art. And that's all about because it's a woman making it. It had the women's sensibility.
But it's incredible that women, as much as, they're working today, they've emancipated themselves, and yet politically we play no role, really. We don't decide anything. And women are much more, they're natural, biologically, they're much more, not only more conservative, but they care about, we feed our children. We have completely other roles and possibilities. And that's why I really think that women could administrate this world much better. Black power and women power, they get together, fantastic, take over everything. That's the solution. A world of, a new world of joy.
She had a very difficult upbringing and a very difficult relationship with her parents.
My problem is creating. It's creating now. It's creating beauty. It's creating something. It's creating something which has to do with you, which has to do with now, which has to do with bombs and everything exploding and the end of the world.
There was a lot of anger in her early works. In fact, she was first famous for what were called shooting paintings. She would create a sculpture of different, things, maybe a church, and she would put pockets of paint behind the plaster. She would make it out of chicken wire and plaster, and there'd be pockets of paint in little bags behind it. She knew where those pockets were. Then she would put that up on a wall, and then she would have herself or her husband Jean Tinguely or other artists take a rifle and shoot at the work. So you see the violence in that, the anger coming out. And they would shoot and hit these pockets of paint, and the paint would run down and create in some cases, a very beautiful work of art. She worked with polyester, they call it in France. We call it resins, and it's similar to the stuff that surfboards are made out of. The foam core and then the resin exterior to protect it. Well, that's what a lot of her sculptures were made of early in her life. And they didn't know back then that breathing the fumes of resin was burning the lining of your lungs. Toward the latter part of her life, she had terrible problems with her lungs, health issues. And Nikki's dictate to me was, I want you to keep my art alive. And to do that, we formed a foundation into which she put all of her art. Upon her death, all of her art automatically transferred into this foundation, which is called the Nikki Charitable Art Foundation.
A wonderful, wonderful spirit and creative artist, and she definitely embodies the spirit of the Women's Hall of Fame. And now Marcello Zitelli from Buenos Aires to accept the award on behalf of Nikki.
Hello, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Marcello Zitelli. I am one of the trustees of the Nikki Charitable Art Foundation, and I worked alongside her for the last 15 years of her life. I would like to thank the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame for this honor. Nikki would have been thrilled, and we at the foundation are incredibly humbled to be here accepting this on her behalf. This is not the first gift that San Diego gave to her. In the 90s, I went to a doctor with Nikki in Paris, and she gets some terrible news about her lung conditions. The doctor said that if she kept doing what she was doing, she had only a few months to live. The doctor suggests that if she were to move to another place with a better climate, where she could breathe easier, she could potentially live for another 10 years. And that is exactly what happened. Nikki moved to San Diego and had another 10 very productive years. She fell in love with the environment, the people, the history, and the energy of San Diego. Moving there gave her something invaluable, 10 years of life. She felt identified with the culture, admired diversity, and her work became inspired by the area. It gave her a new goal in her last years, to create a work that reflect the spirit and the culture that she found there. Even though she was only in San Diego for 10 years, her passion and hard work accomplished Nikkification, as we call it. She had the capacity to enchant every place she arrived and make everyone she met passionate with her work. This honor is the cherry on the top of all the gifts San Diego has already given to her. And this award is incredibly moving to us because it's the confirmation that San Diego has not only accepted her legacy, but is also very proud of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcello. Thank you for taking time out to join us. And again, I encourage our attendees to go and see Nikki's art in San Diego. There are so many pieces that you can enjoy. But thank you again, Marcello, for joining us.
You're very welcome.
And now for our main event, so to speak, our induction. So I want to invite our inductees to get ready. And I'd like to introduce Justice Judith McConnell, who is our administrating presiding justice of the California Court of Appeal here in San Diego in the 4th District. And Justice McConnell herself is an inductee in the Women's Hall of Fame. She was inducted in 2010 as a trailblazer, and it's wonderful for Justice McConnell to join us today to do the honors. Justice McConnell.
Thank you very much, Jerry Lynn. It is an honor for me to be here with these extraordinary women, to hear their life stories, to see them, and to know more about them. And here we are as a community to permanently and publicly recognize and honor 6 women who have improved our collective lives with their life's work, their courage, their willingness to stand up for their beliefs and the needs of San Diegans, of all San Diegans. They're inspiring role models. They inspire me. And for all of their contributions to the County of San Diego, we hereby induct into the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame the following women. Judge Randa Trapp, one of my heroes. Dr. Rosalie Schwartz, Genevieve Jones-Wright, Susan Jester, Margaret Iwanaga Penrose, and Nikki de Sanfal, fabulous artist. Now I ask that each of you please raise your right hand. To the best of your ability, will you continue to support and assist with the advancement and empowerment of all women so that you may continue to inspire current and future generations?
I absolutely will.
Wonderful, wonderful. And of course, with Nikki, her art inspires all of us and will inspire us for years. I, Judith McConnell, presiding justice of the California Court of Appeal, hereby declare that you are now inducted into the San Diego County Women's Hall of Fame as follows. Judge Randa Trapp, trailblazer. Dr. Rosalie Schwartz, historian. Genevieve Jones-Wright, activist. Susan Jester, empowerer. Margaret Iwanaga Penrose, cultural bridge builder. And Nikki de Sanfal, spirit. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our honorees. Thank you, Justice McConnell. That was terrific. Thank you all. As we close out our program, I want to make sure we thank Moxie Theater for helping us put together this program on the Zoom platform, especially Jennifer Eve Thorne, Executive Artistic Director, and Nicole Rees, Production Manager. I also want to thank our 4 co-sponsoring organizations for the Women's Hall of Fame Awards, and that's the Women's Museum of California, the San Diego County Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, UC San Diego's Women's Center, and San Diego State University's Department of Women Studies. I also want to acknowledge on behalf of the Planning Committee to give a shout out to the Women's Hall of Fame Honorary Committee. And those individuals include former San Diego City Council member Barbara Bree, Sue Gonda, and Susan Califf, Eleanor Charlton, Patricia McQuader, Angela Coker, Alessandra Moctezuma, Nicole Miller-Coleman, Judge Julia Kelledy, Barbara Stanley, Leah Goodwin, Ann Hoiberg, the Democratic Women's Club of San Diego County, Felicia Shaw, Veronica and Judge Bob Longstreth, Women of Africa San Diego, Victoria Hamilton, Rosamond Trujillo Blevins, Becky Philpott, and Mary Juanita Wood. And I also want to remind all of our attendees that we've set up a text to support the Women's Museum so that we can continue to have the Women's Hall of Fame. So remember to text WHOF 20 to 833-755-6550, and all donations will support the Women's Museum of California and our mission to inspire current and future generations on the accomplishments of women. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Starla Lewis to close out the program. And we're also going to ask our honorees to stay on because we would love to get a photo of you. So Starla.
Okay. You have my voice, but they're not letting the video up. Start my video.
I'll fix that for you. One moment, Ms. Starla.
Okay, there I see myself. Oh, have you had a good time? I truly hope that you did. You know, what you have done today is you've come to celebrate and honor our genius people. And they are truly reflections of you. I hope you have been inspired to recognize the gift that you are to the world, as they are a gift to each and every one of us. And I hope that you realize that your gift is yet to be ignited or to be shared or to be recognized. So if you know someone next year, please, please nominate them. If you nominate someone and they don't get it, please let them know that you did, because we need to know that people are seeing our good works so that we are inspired to continue our good works. Know that each and every one of you is brilliant, powerful, limitless love. And we heard the love more than once, and I believe that women are the first teachers of it. So bring the love, connect the head, connect the heart, and we can't go wrong. Thank you, honorees. We honor you.
Thank you so much, Starla. So for the honorees, we want to get you on camera and maybe get a great photograph of you with your awards if you have them in hand. Great.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone for joining us this afternoon, and congratulations to our honorees. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
We're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet.